The Phoenix Suns blew a 21-point lead in one of their last big tests of the regular season. Now what? We'll break that down and what it means moving forward for the Suns after this. Welcome into PHNX Suns Postgame, presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app and use code PHNX365 when you sign up and find out why winning is everything at Bet365. Winning is not everything for the Suns.
It was for their opponent tonight.
Well, they won the first quarter.
Hey.
That was probably the only thing that we could really be positive about in tonight's game. Gil here with Espo, and I guess we're going to talk through it and figure it all out with you here in the chat, which I have a feeling it'll be in rare form tonight.
Yeah, group therapy tonight. Welcome to all of our friends from Houston and wherever stands come from. Glad to have each and every one of you here. We'll have a discussion about this one, a dialogue, if you will.
Yeah, and that's what's discouraging, right? Like usually you come out of games saying, oh, well, at least you could be encouraged by this, or at least that was good. But there was plenty to be discouraged by in this game. Suns go out on a historic run, 24-0 in the first quarter, up by 21 points, and then get outscored 98-68 in the second through fourth quarter.
Is that problematic?
I think that usually does not work in your favor. So you're up 16 at the end of the first quarter, you lose the game by 14 points. And I think, Espo, we talked about this, and you just kind of said this is one of those games where you get an idea of what the watermark is for a good team in this league, and then you see how far you are from it.
Yeah, I mean, you came out with exactly what you wanted from this team. You wanted to see that defensive toughness. You wanted to see that fire, that passion. You thought, all right, well, they realize that this is the closest to a playoff test that they're going to have, and they stepped up in that first quarter, and they showed it. And then they took a punch from the Rockets, and they folded in a big way. It was honestly, it was embarrassing in the way that they did fold, in particular in that second quarter, because you come out, you win that first quarter 37-21, and I turn to you and I go, hey, 37's nice, but we've seen this team put, in the 20s up in quarters, and that's where you have problems. Well, guess what? 20 points in that second quarter, and Houston, only at 33. They didn't blow the doors off in that quarter, but you could not find anything offensively. You all of a sudden stop rebounding. It is just bad,
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not really, and I kind of said it a little bit jokingly, but there really isn't much positive to take from it. And what you pointed out about the Rockets taking that punch and responding, that is really the difference between who you are and who you want to be. And not just specific to the Rockets, but talk about the blown lead issue throughout this season. It's not like the Suns are blowing leads against bad teams. They're blowing leads against playoff teams, against the Suns, against the Rockets, against the Spurs, against the Celtics, against the Raptors, teams who are going to be in these positions just like you are, and how are you going to respond? And that is the most discouraging thing about this, especially at this juncture of the season, because playing with the lead is something that before, again, we're saying, hey, how are you going to do this for all 48 minutes? How can you sustain what you're doing to get ahead at this point in the game? And they didn't. And at this point, it's like a matter of diagnosing the issue, but you really just have to put a Band-Aid over a massive wound because there are 3 games left in the regular season.
Yeah. And what kills me is the first quarter felt like that team from earlier in the year. We hadn't really seen that over the last few weeks and maybe even the last month. And then you see it. And you go, this is everything that we came to believe what this team can be, and they're doing it against high-caliber opponents. We knew that this was going to be a preview of what the play-in and what the playoff will feel like. And you match that intensity in the first quarter, and your defense came and went, but your offense completely disappeared. And the only reason that the second and third weren't even more brutal was the free throws. You were getting to the free throw line in that second quarter, I believe you got them into the bonus like middle of the way through the second. So you're not hitting field goals, but you're getting to the free throw line. But then that dries up, and that was the problem there, right? You are not finding any effective way to score after that. And you knew that the Rockets were going to find their offense. You knew that Kevin Durant wasn't going to continue a 1-for-6 shooting night, and admittedly, he wasn't the main culprit that did it in. It was Jabari Smith. It was Amen Thompson. It was Şengün in a handful of those minutes in the fourth. They used their size, they used their athleticism, and they took it to the Suns in these points of weakness that we've seen be exploited. Suns played a solid third. You played it even. You went into the fourth with a 3-point lead. And, but then the fourth, the Rockets said, no, we're the better team. We know we're the better team. And we're about to show you exactly what the difference between a true playoff team and potentially playoff contender and a team that may sneak into the playoffs because they win one of 2 playing games.
And that's the thing. You mentioned the offense kind of screeching to a halt or just losing its flow. And I don't necessarily know how to diagnose that issue, but I can look at the numbers and tell you the Suns were 14 of 23 from the field in the first quarter. Finished the game 32 of 75. That means 18 for 52 from the second through the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
From three is the most alarming. 4 of 8 in that first quarter. And the three-pointer was kind of keeping the offense open and flowing. They finished the game 7 of 31. So they missed 3 of their last 23, they only made 3 of their last 23 attempts from beyond the arc. And we talk so much about how important that is for this team. And you talk about this team, and some people are upset about the fact that they'll shoot 35, 40, 45 attempts from beyond the arc. Well, they only took 31 in this game, but they only made 7 of them. And if I looked, I'm pretty sure that's one of the few times, probably could count on one hand, or if not just 2 hands, how many times this team failed to make 10 3-pointers in a game. But the big one, which I know we'll dive into a little bit deeper at some point, especially throughout the show, is the lineups. And, we talked about who we would or would not see and the flow. And I'm concerned about the bench unit. They finished with 19 points in this game. And I think that is kind of contributed to the offense, not putting it solely on them, but the flow wasn't there. The game flow wasn't there. And you talk about the quarters, it feels like when quarters were turning, ends of quarters, beginnings of quarters, when you didn't have that starting lineup out there, things got a little messy.
Well, yeah, I mean, you were going with the leave one starter out there, bring in 4 bench guys. These are guys that had been starting, now are back to the bench. Nobody seems to be able to figure it out. Colin disappears. Grayson didn't have a good game. Royce, a relative, non-factor tonight. And those all those things are concerning. But you could have withstood the offensive struggles, even with your bench doing that. The thing that stands out to me and really stood out to me in that second and fourth quarter was the rebounding and giving up the offensive rebounds that then allowed the second chance points. That was the big problem here. And that has to do with lineups, because you did go very small and continued to, and still didn't play Rasheer or Ryan Dunn there. But we saw them in the first quarter box out, play good defense, didn't allow those kind of things. Second and fourth quarters, they couldn't stop them from getting the offensive glass. The Rockets wound up with 100 shots tonight to the Suns 75. 25 possessions you lost there. I mean, I'm not good at math, but I know that ain't good.
It's not good at all. 24 offensive boards, to your point. 37 second chance points for the Rockets in this game. And I remember talking about this during the game in the first quarter. I was like, man, they're doing as good as they can on the offensive glass. And also, after giving up 60-plus points in the paint on Sunday in Chicago, it wasn't really the case for the Rockets in the first quarter in this game. Now, obviously, they finished the game with 54 points in the paint. So those same woes, that same lack of size in the middle. Mark Williams, 28 minutes in this game, which seems like a pretty normal workload for him. But the other thing that stands out, we talk so much about the weaknesses, and to kind of circle back to that, because I think that the rebounding is the biggest thing. But there's been a lot of talk about the Rockets' inability to shoot the ball from beyond the arc and no floor spacing in Houston. Well, they doubled you up from beyond the arc. They go 14 of 38 in this game. 10 of those threes from Kevin Durant and Jabari Smith Jr. KD makes 5, goes 5 of 9. Jabari Smith Jr. goes 5 of 13. And there are a couple of possessions he got lost. And that's another one of the things that we talked about with this team, rotations not being sharp. Roll your eyes, blow-bys, things like that. The swagger, the disruption that we were seeing in passing lanes and just flying around the court. Again, it just makes me wonder, like, is this team just gas? Like, why can they not sustain this? What they did to build a 21-point lead. I didn't expect them to just blow out the Rockets the entire game and win the game by 20 points, but how could they not sustain it?
That's the million-dollar question, because if they understood what was going on there, then they honestly would be able to rectify it. And I don't think they know, because I'm sorry, you can wind up saying size. There's only so much of it on this roster, and I don't think Rasheer Fleming's making up for that discrepancy, especially on the offensive glass. So why are these things happening? And it may just very well be you were always at a talent deficit. There was no doubt about that. And you played above that by playing team defense, playing and scrambling for those offensive rebounds. And on a night like tonight, you put forth so much energy in that first. And has it just been a lot of these guys playing beyond the number of minutes that they've ever played? A lot of these guys, not having the gas left. And that may be the simple answer, but it's not an acceptable one, I don't think.
Right. Anime Hoopson said it's simple as it being effort. And I do think that's a part of it, because there were times where we were frustrated. We're kind of scratching our head, pulling our hair out, saying, what was going on there? Why did they just kind of allow this blow by? Why aren't they closing out on this? Why are they off a rotation? But it's just such a drastic shift. And in this game, especially when we're thinking about, again, closing quarters, closing halves. And in this case, it was opening a quarter. The fourth quarter, we could tell from that first run, when we saw who came out there, the Suns had a lead going into the fourth quarter. As crazy as it would seem with the final score, the Suns were up 3 going into the final frame. And it was super important to come out. And I asked you, I said, do you think Book plays the entire fourth quarter? And that's what you expected to happen. Should have felt like, okay, this is what you're going to do in a play-in tournament situation, what you're going to do in a playoff situation. If you're able to make there.
Why wouldn't you have tonight? Because tonight was essentially that. Tonight should have been your dress rehearsal for the playoffs, and you didn't see him play the whole fourth. As a matter of fact, you didn't see Jalen come in until about 4.5, 5 minutes left in the fourth, and you let Grayson go. Like, I would have treated this like a dress rehearsal for those play-in games, and I don't feel like the rotations were, and if they are, I've got some questions.
Some questions about that. I fully expected them to start that the right way, and then I expected it to be a quick hook. I think it was a 5-0 run. It's like, okay, put those guys in. And I guess I'm curious now. You said you fully expected it to kind of be more of a playoff rotation. Is it as simple as, okay, look, Book, play it out right now? I know there's a game tomorrow, but it's not as important. If we can get this one against a playoff level team, we'll deal with tomorrow when it happens. Is it as simple as having a quick pull, a quick hook on guys who aren't playing up to their specific level that you would think? And there's some guys who did not do that tonight. What is the biggest thing that needs to be different to get playoff ready or postseason ready with a week to go?
I don't know. Tonight should have been the mindset that it was. I would have been like, hey, let's play this like we're going to have to play that playing game. There is no tomorrow. We don't care about that second end of the back-to-back. Because if you had won tonight, you essentially locked in 7.
Mm-hmm.
And so you wouldn't have to worry as much about tomorrow night. But now you've expended all that energy. You didn't play the rotations the right way to get you a win. And now you have to try to get a win tomorrow night to keep the Clippers, who are now 2 games back of you, off your ass. That's a big question mark. I wanted to, Ryder in the chat, he's asked a couple times, and I want to get to this. So at the beginning of the year, the Suns had an identity. They were try-hard team. The team overplayed. Why do you think that's changed since the beginning of the year in that regard? Injuries played a part of it. A game like tonight where you did it in the first quarter, and I think part of it is I don't think we've given enough credit to the Rockets too.
Yes.
The Rockets looked at that first quarter, adjusted their game plan, said, okay, this is the way we're going to have to attack it, and then executed that in the second and the fourth in particular, executed that fairly flawlessly in the way they approached it. So, again, very much like a playoff game, Suns came out with the right game plan to start it. And then Ime Udoka counter moved it and made that chess move, and Jordan Ott and the Suns didn't respond appropriately. They held serve in the third, but then could not handle those things in the fourth. And that's concerning is that counter attack, because you knew that the Rockets were going to have another swing in that second quarter. You knew once you held them in the third going into that fourth that they were going to bring their best and try to have that knockout blow. In those first 4 minutes, we talked about it. Rockets had their starters out there. Suns went with that bench lineup. And I think it was Jalen. Was it who was there was one starter out there in the bench lineup. And I turned to you and I said, this is probably going to decide it.
Right.
And that's where it went from a 3-point lead to, I believe it was
6, 7 or 9 point. Yeah, because it was a 6 point. I was like, hey, well, look, it's still a 2-possession game. I said that. Then the next possession, it was an and one, it was a 7. I was like, well, this is unraveling pretty quickly. And I was going to point that out too, and I do think the Rockets deserve credit. So all of you who are like putting your brooms in there, yes, the Rockets won the season series 4-0. They had to scrap and claw for it, but they won the season series. So the victor goes to spoils or what have you. But they did respond in that I'm pretty sure a lot of them said, okay, look, this first quarter is not who we are. And I'm sure knowing Ime Udoka's temperament, he probably said, that's not who they are either. And he said, look, punch back and they'll fold. And unfortunately, right now, that is the wrap on this team because that's what they've been doing lately. Now, we know the full story. That's not what they did in January and in December and November, but lately that's been the case. And you look at it like KD, 1 for 6 in the first quarter. He ends the game making 7 of his last 14. Yeah. So, he shot 40% from the game, but he actually was 50% for the final 3 quarters. And it really was like not even a tale 2 halves. It was a tale of, hey, this first quarter is yours, but we're okay. We've been here before. We see this. We need to just chip away at that. And I think the Suns were in that, and we all recognized it in the moment. And there was never really a button that they could have pressed to stop that. And I think that's where you start asking the questions of, hey, do we do something that's maybe not in the rotation that we are thinking about? But the last point I'll make before we throw it to our first break, you look at the minutes and we talk about playoff rotation. Dillon, 33 minutes. Jalen, 32 minutes. Book played 39 minutes in this game. And then Grayson Allen and Mark are right there as well. Mark, 28. Goody, 25. Grayson, 26 minutes. A little surprised Grayson got 26 off the bench, especially knowing some of the things that he could have been better at tonight. But basically, that's a preview of what we're going to see in this playoff rotation.
I imagine that you'll see Dillon and Jalen maybe see those
even more than that
go up. Some of this may have been thinking about tomorrow, which again I think was a flawed thought process. But I think you may see their numbers raise. But I feel like Ott sensed that things kind of slid in the second and tried to lean on those vets in that bench unit to try to help you along the way, and it backfired. They did not step up. Royce and Grayson did not step up. You talked about how the bench as a whole only had 19 points. Those were a lot of guys you could rely on early. And those are guys, Colin in particular, that's kind of regressed to the mean a little bit, that have kind of had a backslide. And it's like, okay, well, if those guys aren't helping you out, where do you turn? And your only options are younger guys in Rasheer and Ryan Dunn. And I wonder if Jordan Ott, just as Mark said during the watch along, it's that rookie coach thing. You want to rely on your vets. And is it one of those you might just have to go, you know what, I'm throwing that conventional wisdom out. Maybe I do need to go back to Rasheer, who stepped up with all these injuries, and give him a chance. If you're going to do it, though, I think tonight would have been the night.
Yeah, you have to wonder now kind of what's going on. Like, is there a fix for this bench rotation? Is it a lineup change again? Are they going to press the button as far as that goes with some of the young players, especially knowing these last 3 games? Maybe they don't get treated like games that are just throwaways now because it's really important. You kind of can't. You got to get one more win anyway, and you can't really look at these teams and look past them or ahead of them because you can mess around and lose more games, especially with the type of efforts that we've seen. We even talked about issues with the effort in Chicago on Sunday as well. So a lot of people were saying we're too negative after a loss, after a win. losses like this kind of justify why we feel like that. Now, obviously, it's not all negative, so we'll try to put some positive spins on that. We'll talk more about the good and the bad we saw in this game, and later on, we'll have SPG join us from the morgue. But first off, we'll send it to our first break.
The husband and wife law team, if you've had a serious injury due to an accident, I got to tell you, you're going to want to do your research to find the right lawyer. I didn't. I've told you this story, Gil. I paid the price, not in dollars, although I did in terms of the settlement, but in peace of mind as well. And if I had done my research, I would have found Mark and Alexis Breyer, the husband and wife law team, and saved myself a lot of grief because they make sure that you wind up with more in your pocket than it goes to their bottom line. They also make sure that you can reach out to your lawyer at any time, which is one of the most frustrating things if you can't, and a big reason why a lot of people will leave their lawyer and go somewhere else. Plus, they are certified by the Arizona bar when it comes to wrongful death and serious injury. They're part of the 1% of the entire bar that is certified. So you're going to want to actually go with the husband and wife law team. And Mark and Alexis Breyer, so if you've had a serious injury, call the husband and wife law team first at 602-783-8841 or visit their link in our show notes and tell them PHNX sent you.
Now, of course, if you're here, we appreciate you being here. You know what else we'd appreciate? Your feedback. Yes, your feedback. If you're a regular viewer or a listener of us or any show here at PHNX, we want to hear from you. Take a short survey. Let us know what you love about the show, what could be better, what you like the most, if it's me, if it's Espo, whatever it is.
Say it's Gil.
I don't know about all of that, but you enter yourself for a chance to win a $100 Amazon gift card. So that's both words. Give us your feedback, and you have a chance to win $100 of an Amazon gift card. Head to gophnx.com/survey today to get signed up. If you're watching us, you can scan the QR code that's right there on your screen, and that survey will be there for you. It takes about 3 minutes. Your feedback will continue to help shape what we do around here because ultimately we are here for you guys covering PHNX, whether it's the Suns, Sun Devils, Cardinals, Wildcats. We're here for you. Take the survey today, scan the QR code on the screen, and head to gophnx.com/survey. That's gophnx.com/survey. Back here, PHNX Suns post game presented by Bet365, trying to decipher, make sense of, debrief, decompress, all of the words after a pretty disappointing 14-point loss by the Phoenix Suns. And as I said before, it's not all bad, like you all being here. So thanks for joining us. Please make sure to like and subscribe. Some of you guys, you know what? If you're here to take a victory lap, you can still like the video because I know you're having fun taking your victory lap. So you might as well like what we got going on here tonight. Now, of course, we talked a little bit about the bad, and honestly, it wasn't really much positive to take away from this, but one player in particular did a lot of good things, and it's pretty common, and he is our dude of the night, presented by Gila River Resorts and Casinos. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit play@Gila.com, and that dude is Mr. Devin Booker. We saw him in this game finish with 31 points on the night, on 7 of 16 shooting from the field, but got to the line 16 times as well, 15 of 16 from the free throw line. And we saw him in that mode early on in this game and really rise to the occasion. 21 of those 31 points came in the first half of this game, and it was just kind of encouraging because it felt like he was setting the tone. And obviously it didn't sustain in the second half, even really beyond that first quarter for everybody. But you got to at least have some positive takeaways from what you saw from Devin Booker in the big game like this, because I've been seeing a lot of blame for the lead being placed on him, but you can't do that.
No, and he was trying to do it all. He got put in a position where he had to do it all himself. 8 assists, 4 rebounds as well. Look, a lot of credit goes again to Houston for the defensive shifts because they realized, okay, Devin Booker's got it going on, but let's look around this roster. Who else is actually going to step up? And the answer was no one. I mean, that was the reality. So they stiffened up the defense against Devin. The rest of the team didn't step up. And we've talked about it. It's the others that wind up with a lot of these teams, and the Suns included, having to pick up the slack in those cases. Devin didn't play a perfect game. There was some opportunities that were missed, but he did get to the line and found a way to get those fouls and legitimately so. 16, he had as many free throw attempts as the Rockets did as a team tonight. There's something to be said for that. So in a bad game overall, especially in that back half, Devin did the things that he was expected to, but didn't have enough and didn't have enough help.
So you talk about him not necessarily having enough help, and there were a lot of eyes on the former Rockets in this game. Obviously, the trade, and a lot of eyes on the former Suns in this game as well. But when you talk about the starting unit and the triumvirate, the trio with Devin Booker, Jalen Green, and Dillon Brooks, Jalen had moments. And we'll talk about some of those moments as we continue to work through this. But he finished with 15 points on 5 of 14 from the field. Dillon Brooks.
3 blocks.
3 blocks. 3 blocks in the game. And you also had Dillon Brooks finishing with 10 points on 3 of 12 shooting, 1 of 7 from deep. They combined to go 1 of 11 from deep. So they could not get going from beyond the arc. At any point, do you think that those guys were maybe a little too psyched out? Do you think it was just a matter of them not playing well, or a little bit of both with that?
I don't think Dillon has figured out how to be that guy he was before the injury. I don't know if it's the hand. I don't know if it's the fact that it's a different lineup than when he was. He was the undisputed number 2 option there before, and now he's 2B behind Jalen, and it just hasn't looked right offensively for him since he came back. Tonight was one of those nights. He went 1 of 7 from deep. The most egregious one was he came down the court, pulled up from 3 when he was 1 against 4. It was a bad look, and that's somewhat the Dillon Brooks experience, but we had seen him play better. If you want any chance, you need the Dillon Brooks offensively that you saw earlier in the year. He had defensive moments tonight, but you need the offense as well, and that wasn't there. And then I think Jalen might have been the guy that pressed a little bit tonight. His first time taking on his former team. Had some bright moments, but again, he's another guy struggled from deep 0 of 4 in this game. And we know when this team isn't hitting threes, I mean, if they shoot 23% from deep, there's very little chance that you're going to actually win a game.
And that's something I want to talk about a little bit, specifically to Jalen, because he and Amin Thompson had a lot of back and forth from the beginning. And I even commented about it, wrote about it on Twitter. It's just that, like, you can tell when two guys have spent a lot of time playing one-on-one against each other, whether it was during training camp, whether it was before practice, after practice. And he wasn't awful tonight. I think that the emotions are going to naturally happen for anybody, especially a young player. And the fact that this happened the last week of the season wasn't great. And again, he didn't have the worst game in the world.
No.
It just was with him. And thinking about Dillon and what could be better, and him being a 20-point per game scorer this season, how much of it is just being a rhythm player? And coming back and trying to reestablish that rhythm on the fly when everybody around you has kind of found that cadence and rhythm of playing with one another. We even saw it in Chicago where it seemed like he was really passive in the first half of that game. And in this one, it was a little bit different. There was a little bit of like he took the first shot of the game. I think we all could have taken that if that was something that you could bet in this game. But I saw some people mention it, and we can talk about it a little bit. I think we have some sound from Kevin Durant. I don't know if you have that ready, Ayrton. But his back and forth with Kevin Durant. Do you think that there was any element of poking the bear?
Yes.
Do you think that might have been a little too much poking the bear?
It's Dillon Brooks. So, I mean, you have to accept that that's part of what he's going to do. Maybe you have to know the situation. I mean, you have to know that Kevin Durant is looking for anything to fire him up an additional level. And Dillon Brooks paid the price, especially that play right after they jawed. Dillon Brooks fell down twice on that play against Kevin Durant. And, if KD had come out and he wound up dropping like 30 after that and was the primary reason that this game turned, I would say 100%. He was the reason that second quarter started to turn in the Rockets' favor. But yeah, you poke the bear, and again, that's Dillon Brooks' whole MO, right? It's the dark arts. But I certainly think, they weren't anybody's nightmare tonight. They were the one having the nightmare in the second through fourth quarters tonight.
You and I uttered the phrase dark arts, like, I don't know, maybe a dozen times.
I've never said it before in my life. And
read one Dillon Brooks essay and you get into the whole idea.
Maybe he should have read that at halftime, because I got fired up reading it. Maybe he needed
do it
that.
again?
Yeah, just go ahead.
Do it again. Now, we mentioned poking the bear, and Kevin Durant did speak about it post-game. He kind of talked about Dillon Brooks and the impact that he has. Here's what Kevin Durant had to say about all of that.
But it looked like the chatter with Dillon kind of got you maybe to go to even another place.
No.
Okay.
Not at all. I'm not giving him that. You don't get that type of credit with me. Maybe some other guys that may turn up because he talked to him, but he's not that important or special to me to get me going. You know what I'm saying? I wake up going, getting ready to play. You know what I'm saying? But I respect Dillon. I respect what he brings to the game. Like I said earlier, I think that gets him going more than me. You know what I'm saying? And I just happened to get that ball right afterwards and make a good move, but it wasn't in spite of Dillon. I wanted to show him up. Like, he's not that much of a concern to me, but I respect how he approaches the game and what he does. And, and that's valuable to him, and that brings him, makes him a better player. But me, it has nothing to do with my game.
I'm not concerned about him. He doesn't get to me, but I respect what he does. It was like 80% disrespect and like 20% respect in that answer.
Let's be honest. Even if that was what motivated, he's not going to tell you that.
No.
Like, no guy's going to go, yeah, Dillon Brooks is a reason.
Brooks got me going.
Yeah. Dillon got me fired up after that. And yeah, I want to. No. And Kevin Durant's an all-time great and one of the top 5 scorers, if not top 3 scorers of all time. So, yeah, he's not going to give somebody else credit for what he went out there and did. And you know what? He went out after a 1-for-6 slow start, and he found it and got it going and made Dillon look bad.
Yeah.
I mean, they looked bad in that second quarter.
Yeah, and again, I think back, and that's kind of what I talk about a little bit with all the extra that was going on. You had Amen Thompson and Jalen. You had Dillon and KD. You had Jayshawn Tate and Dillon. You had Reed Shepherd and Dillon. I'm seeing the common denominator here. But it feels like, and these are all guys who played with him last season, and I don't necessarily think that people are getting under Dillon's skin to make him play poorly. I think that him not playing up to the standard we've held for him, he deserves some grace because this is just his, fourth game back from the injury, and he's a high-volume player trying to get back to playing at that level. But these guys are poking at him. All the different guys he played with, and I kind of made the joke about Reed Shepherd saying, there probably was a moment where Dillon yelled at him last year at practice or training camp that he was like, you know what, I got this opportunity. Let me take a hard flagrant one and keep it moving.
I'm going to try to decapitate you for all those things you said.
Grab on the shoulder and just, real quick and walk away knowing you got 17 technical fouls, so you can't pick up one with me. Same thing with Jayshawn Tate. They were poking at a guy who, to be fair, they knew he couldn't poke back.
And here's what Reed Shepherd, I'm just kidding. He'd probably be like, KD doesn't, Dillon doesn't get me going like that. I'd foul any guy like that. And no, look, I'm sure there were some personal things tonight on multiple fronts that led to a lot of feelings and a lot of the approach this evening for these guys. And yeah, I mean, it was ugly. It was the first quarter was great, and then it was ugly.
So, that lends itself perfectly. We talked about the Reed Shepherd foul, and that leads us to our blue-collar boy of the night, and that is, to no surprise, Mr. Blue Collar, Jordan Goodwin. And I think the most bluest collarist move of him was immediately recognizing that Dillon Brooks was ready to speak some words with his former teammate, and he went there, big bear hug, paddling back.
Do we have that video? The big bear hug? That was MVP type stuff.
It was quick on his feet, and we do it, and we've seen it before. I think we've seen it before with Goody as well. I think it happened like a Cavs game or something like that a while back. Like
Goody's got like Spidey sense. I'm pretty sure he was at half court and ran all that way and said, "You know what, Dillon? I'm throwing myself in front of you. You're not getting this technical, even though Reed Shepherd deserves to have you go scream at him, deserves for you to lose your mind on him. I will not allow it. I am bear hugging your ass. You're not moving from this baseline."
Yeah, of course, I mentioned Jordan Goodwin, blue collar boy of the night, 11 points, 3 of 6 from beyond the arc, 4 boards, 2 assists, 2 steals, did a little bit of everything. And you talk about, he had such a great start to the game, and this is something that Steven pointed out. Again, we'll have him join us from the morgue here shortly after one of our breaks, but Goody's three-point shooting is going to be the swing skill for him in this starting unit. Finishes the night going 3 of 6, but again, there's more to it than meets the eye because he made his first 2, and he only made 1 of his last 4. And if you had spread those out throughout the course of the game, maybe it looks a little different. And it was just really a point in time in this game where you needed some type of answer somewhere. And then, again, we talk about the size issue, and Goody finishes the game with 4 rebounds, and he's such a good rebounder. And also, he's starting at the 3 for you, essentially. And he, at many times, was going to be the one matched up with Kevin Durant. There was one player who was like, he's giving up 10 inches of height on him. Like,
Yeah, there's no way to stop that.
like, what can you do? Guys that Kevin Durant's height have a hard enough time guarding Kevin Durant. What do you expect him to do? But this is 2 games now with Jordan Goodwin in the starting lineup. What has been your impression of him in that role?
I like it, but it also shines a light on your biggest deficiency. When your best forward, or at least the one you trust the most, is a guy that's 6'3", that's problematic because there are going to be situations where he's going up against a guy like Kevin Durant that's going to be significantly bigger, that's just going to be able to make moves right over the top of you, right? And that's like, you trusting him to be one of the guys going up against Kawhi? Are you gonna do that in the 7-8 game? You feeling comfortable with that? Because that's a question you have to seriously ask yourself right now with the final 3 games. You know you're playing essentially the Clippers. It's almost locked in. You just don't know if it's here or on the road. And it looks like it'll be here, but I'm not gonna make that official. So do you trust Goody in that? And I know he's good enough to at least make it difficult, but there are limitations. And it's not a him problem with the starting lineup. It's a fact that it shines a light on your biggest limitation, lack of size and lack of toughness at that height as well.
It's tough too, and you had such a good start in this game. You in the first quarter up 16 points. I was like, oh, maybe they have found the answer with the starting lineup. But I think that, and this is something that we've talked about a lot, the residual effect of it is, hey, your second unit also takes a hit, and we're sitting here talking so much about it, and we'll try and diagnose issues with the second unit here soon. But I think that more so than what he brings to the starting lineup, it needs to be a conversation of what he takes away from the second unit, what's not there. And obviously you can still play him in second unit heavy lineups, but the flow is just completely different when this guy is no longer a part of that second unit. So again, he's still able to make his presence felt and do the blue collar things that he does, whether he's starting, whether he's a 6th man, whether he's the 10th man. That's just who Jordan Goodwin is. So it'll be interesting to see how these last 3 games, if there are any small tweaks, maybe rotation-wise, maybe lineup-wise. I'm sure a lot of it will depend on what these games demand of the Suns and what's still at stake for the Suns. So we'll get to that and figure that out and figure what's next soon enough.
This is Brian McKnight in the chat. Says, I trust Goodwin with my PIN number and social security number.
Honestly?
I mean, he'll protect it. That's
honestly,
for sure.
Honestly, he'll definitely look out and head you down like that. Somebody I trust with all of that is Stephen Prejean-Garner. And after this next break, we'll bring her back in, talk a little blue collar and everything else like that went wrong with this game.
I know that this is going to come as a big surprise to you, Gil, and to all of you watching. I'm a bit high-strung sometimes. And you know what I like to turn to? Our friends at Pure Edibles when I need a little thing to take the edge off. And Pure Edibles was founded in Arizona, and it's available in 130 dispensaries statewide. It was created in Flagstaff, Arizona. I don't know if you've been up to Flagstaff
Not yet.
but I highly recommend it. And it was created at the Noble Herb Dispensary, the home of Pure Edibles, and is now made right here in Phoenix. And I'll admit it, it was made by 3 Sun Devils, and that's okay as well. Pure Edibles gummies are not covered in sugar like the others, which is great for me who has to watch my sugar intake. And Pure is full-fledged candy company offering gummies and so much more. Who says happy hour has to end? You can keep it with the Noble Road new Tower IPA all-in-one happy hour gummy. You gotta keep it there. So go to find yourself some Pure Edible products from one of our over 130 dispensaries across Arizona.
Listen, we talk about IQ and high IQ plays. Budget billing is one of the biggest high IQ plays you can make over at APS with your budgeting, whether it's for a big purchase or just generally trying to stay on top of your funds. APS has you covered with their budget billing program. APS customers, if you sign up for budget billing, your payment is averaged out over the full year. You pay about the same every month.
It's huge help.
Huge help. Easy, especially in the summer when things get hot out here. Gives you a more predictable payment, helps you plan and save moving forward. Learn more about budget billing, other options for managing your bill at aps.com/let's talk. And the key takeaway from this is that, look, when your payments average out over the year, you pay about the same every month. And when you're factoring your monthly budget, no surprises, anything like that. APS has got you covered. Find all your options to manage your bill at aps.com/let's talk. That's aps.com/let's talk. Back here, debriefing on the PHNX Suns postgame presented by Bet365. 14-point loss.
That's what we're calling this?
Yeah.
I thought it was group therapy.
Yeah, we can call it that too. Us, everybody in the chat. Aiden, we see you. I know. I get it.
Aiden, as a lifelong Suns fan, I feel you, my brother.
Yeah,
I feel you.
It's tough out here. I've been here long enough to realize I feel it as well. And we were definitely discouraged by a lot that we saw. But somebody who always leaves us feeling encouraged is SPG here with his breakdown live from the morgue. Stephen, we often talk about a tale of two halves. This felt like a pie, like 1 quarter and 3 quarters that were completely different in this one. And and yeah, that's something. Pie can make me feel happy after this game. And this one was just that. What did you feel and see and take away from this game that the Suns kind of let get away from them after such a hot start?
Yeah, that Houston is not sweet for those that thought they were.
Mm-hmm.
That Houston is tried and tested in many ways throughout the course of this season and have responded heftily over the last like 3 weeks now, 7-0 in their last 7 games. And that is a bad matchup for the Phoenix Suns. I start with those 3 things. The Suns, I'm double checking their point total from tonight, 105. On the season series with the Houston Rockets, the Suns are averaging less than 100 points. Houston owns 3 of the 4 Suns' lowest assist total games, and obviously on scoring average games this season. That is just a terrible, terrible matchup. Now there are knowns that you come into the game expecting to get out of line and unraveled at some point as far as the offensive rebounds. That's a historic team there that's operating without their best offensive rebounder because of injury. So you can assume some of these things will happen, but you also have to put up some resistance and not allow for things to roll out of control. Let the wheelbarrow roll downhill uncontrolled. That was a mess of a game. And it goes back to just not playing full 4 quarters.
What was the feel in the press room, in the press conferences after the game? What was kind of Jordan Ott's feel and anybody you talked to? I assume disappointment, but was there anything that they were looking at as a positive from tonight?
Yeah, I mean, the first one is that they feel like they had a chance to get this one. And for all intents and purposes, you go into the 4th quarter up 3, you should very much feel like you are in position to potentially, and I emphasize potentially, do that. You just have to do what you do better than what they were doing for those final 12 minutes, math-wise, and you give yourself a chance at the end of the game like you did last time you played them. They just didn't do that. It felt like the first quarter was played on the Suns' terms, and with each minute that passed by, those last 36, it was more and more and more in Houston's favor, more and more and more on their terms. The offensive rebounds then turned into being in tandem with second chance points, but also the turnovers that the Suns were conceding and the points that came from that. You can't have all of those things happening in one sweeping blow and think that you're going to be able to beat a team like that, because that team does have their flaws, but when you're playing a game on their terms, there's almost no way to beat them.
Did Jordan not talk at all about rotations? That's been the big topic of conversation, both here in the chat, on social. Did Jordan not address that at all?
Yeah, I mean, he said he would love to play more guys. He would love to play 18 guys if he could. They believe in all 18 guys. It's just a matter of it's just literally impossible to play everybody. And what he was saying is if you're playing someone else, that means someone else is either losing minutes or somebody else is being plucked out of the rotation. So they're trying to find the science for getting the most out of the group of guys relative to a specific opponent, but also just in general, because there's only a few games left before postseason play. But they said that's something that they're trying to work through, trying to find solutions for. But at this present moment, the 9 or however many guys that played tonight is what the main rotation is.
So we talked about rotations a little bit, and one thing we talked about is our second game seeing Jordan Goodwin in the starting lineup. And honestly, the returns have been good, especially considering how well this team played in the first quarter. But we saw uncharacteristic play from the second unit. Would you say that just as important as what Jordan Goodwin is bringing to the starting unit, he no longer can add to the second unit, which is still trying to figure out some type of flow out there because they're not looking like themselves in a lot of different ways?
Yeah, I think that's a little bit of what you lose from your reserve unit when you take away the kind of heart and soul of that group and you put them in the starting unit. But you also hope that guys will pitch in ways that they showed to do earlier this season as well. Because Jordan Goodwin was kind of the spear bearer or whatever you want to call it for the guy that tipped everything with the reserve unit. But that was very much a strength in numbers group. He was a guy that stood out just because of how he wears those qualities. But other guys also chipped in, and I mean, you remove Jordan Goodwin from the group. That doesn't mean that everybody else should not be able to do the things that they saw success with before as well. You just gotta find that rhythm, and I think this is a little bit of what comes with when you take away a kind of identity stamping pillar from a group. No different than when Dillon Brooks exited the rotation because of injury. You see there's domino effect. You move Jordan Goodwin from the reserve unit, he can still get blended into that, like you said, over the course of the game. But there's domino effect from that. And I think it might take a game or two, hopefully, maybe not more than that, for those guys to figure out, okay, this is where Goody was. Let me find a unique way to chip in. If I'm Grayson Allen, maybe I can find a way to get my hands on a couple more offensive rebounds or get my hands on a couple more of those 50-50 balls just to pitch in, and then Colin do the same. And then obviously also do the same. And you just kind of fill it in by committee. I think that's the best route to success with that. But they also got to put the ball in the basket more than anything else.
SPG, you talked about 50-50 balls and some of the effort stuff, some of the blue collar stuff. I think that lends itself well to what your number of the night was. What is it? And can you kind of break that down, explain why you chose this figure?
Yeah, 62. That's combined second chance points conceded and Houston Rockets points via Suns turnovers. That number there, 62, not going to get it done. Never going to get it done. That's not a negotiable number for the Suns to allow for things to get out of control to that extent. The offensive rebounds, naturally, I'm sure people have been in the comments saying you got to box out, you got to put bodies on guys. Houston's just bigger. If you do that, that's probably not even enough, especially because they have different types of athletes that crash with a certain type of reckless abandon. It's a lot to deal with. They outsuns the Suns in terms of that. And that's like the boxing adage, styles make fights. That's just something the Suns did not have accounted for just off of roster alone. What is controllable though is the turnovers. And if you're going to have a low assist count game, you better be valuing the absolute life out of the basketball, getting a shot on goal, if not 2 or 3 every single possession. That's your best way to kind of navigate the possession battle. If you're going to be conceding that many, you got to go get them on your end and not be giving them the turnover points. You add the turnover points as a cherry on top to the main dish, which was the points off second chances. Never going to win a game playing like that.
You talk about size, and I'm just going to point blank ask it because a lot of people have.
Mm-hmm.
Why stick with the smaller lineup? Why not turn to a Rasheer? Did any in talking rotations did that come up? I understand the idea of somebody has to come out in that situation, minutes have to drop, but at some point, don't you have to counter what your opponent's doing if it's hurting you that much and try to figure out a solution that way? Or are we just simply, we know the guys we have and we're just going to have to deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there might be a bit of just not enough trust. I'm not going to say it's lacking, but it's just maybe not to the level that it needs to be for I to extend those opportunities to more than the guys that we saw tonight. And honestly, I do feel like they tried to counter what Houston was doing. Houston was essentially betting on Devin Booker just not being sensational. He was very good tonight on offense, but they were just betting on him not being sensational to where his scoring swings the entire floor of the game. And obviously they were successful in that. Devin had a really good game, but it wasn't a 45, 50 piece type game that kind of combats what their game plan was. So Jordan elected to just try to have some shooters out there to off-put some of the things that Houston was doing with their defense, provide spacing, and potentially knock down shots. I don't know if the Suns got enough paint touches to then play off of the closeouts because it didn't feel like Houston was closing out much, if at all, tonight. But I think that's probably their best bet, betting on the offense with spacing. If and company don't have enough trust in those guys to extend the rotation and see what they can do. And I mean, for all intents and purposes, if we're having a transparent conversation, are we just pressing the button of extending the rotation just to see something different happen, or do we think that's going to shift things in terms of a game like this tonight against Houston, or something that a few other teams can replicate in terms of just having more size, more physicality than the Suns can compile, even at their 11 or 12 man rotation? I guess that's the question I kind of posed to y'all.
I think I'd argue on the Rasheer front, a guy that was hitting from deep, which you struggled with tonight, a guy that showed a propensity to be able to grab boards and play strong defense. So I'd argue I don't think that is a is a gimmicky thing or just something you're throwing out to try to extend the rotation. I think it actually could have helped with some of your key flaws this evening with what you were going up against.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Like we saw Rasheer kind of have somewhat of like a breakthrough that game in Houston, in which he was just doing it with his activity. And I think just like the strict sitting with 9 guys, I think it might have been worth giving him a shift just to see what would happen. And Espo asked me that like midway, I think actually he asked me that in the third quarter. And I was like, yeah, I think it's too late now. I would have liked to maybe see him try to stop the bleeding. That's a lot to ask of a rookie, though. I think that's what's important to acknowledge as well, that, hey, this team is kind of turning the game around. Go out there and be somebody that's different, or just give them a different look. So it's tricky. Obviously, it's a reason why they're making the big bucks make those big decisions. And we'll see how they respond and react, especially on the second end of a back-to-back tomorrow. SPG, before we let you go, any final thoughts from tonight's game?
Yeah, I think you just have to move on from this one quickly. Obviously, you didn't get the results you wanted. Obviously, you didn't play a full 4 quarters. You had another fourth quarter that left some things to be desired. Offense only had 15 assists tonight. That's another non-negotiable number that we've kind of spoken to all season. You don't have time to rest on your shortcomings, because you got to go and make sure you get this one tomorrow, your final back-to-back of the regular season. Salvage as much as you can, but rest up and get ready for tomorrow. Jordan did mention, though, we might see a different lineup or rotation tomorrow, just pertaining to the back-to-back nature and them wanting to, in his words, get to the finish line. Obviously doing that healthy. So we'll see what that entails when guys wake up and have their morning workouts and they assess what their bodies are looking and feeling like after this very, 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 very physical game tonight. But might be without a couple of integral pieces tomorrow, just for the sake of getting to where you desire to be in terms of the postseason healthy.
You gotta get there and get a win tomorrow to try to stay in that 7 seed. So it's going to be interesting to see what that pans out as.
That'll be crucial. You guys make sure to follow Steven at Steven PG3, because he will be back in the building tomorrow for a crucial game against the Dallas Mavericks, which I didn't think we'd be saying at this point in the season, but here we are, 3 games left, home finale. SPG, appreciate you as always. We will catch you back here, same time, same place tomorrow. How about it? Actually, an hour earlier, thankfully.
An hour earlier, yeah, for sure. Tomorrow's game is not going to be easy.
Yeah, not going to be easy
Cooper
at all.
Flag playing some of his best basketball. That's a very good defense, like we talked about last time they played the Suns. Not going to be easy at all. They got to get there, roll up their sleeves, and get to work.
I mean, the Mavs are waving the white flag. Unfortunately, it's Cooper who could drop
Bye,
50 on you.
Goodbye, Espo. Good night.
Good night.
All right,
Good
SPG.
night, Steven.
See, look at that. Steven leaving us with a smile on our face after a game like that. We have a few more things.
I had to chase him off.
Yeah,
I thought he was
yeah,
going to be here forever. I had to tell the joke so he left so we could get home.
I know he appreciated that one a little bit, a low key. But we have one more thing maybe to make you smile a little bit, at least revisit some positives. We'll get to that after our final break, and also we'll get to your super chats in as well.
Yeah, we talk about it a lot. I mean, you need a place to put your money. It's just human nature. You make money, you got to put it somewhere, as long as you don't spend it all. And our friends at Mountain America Credit Union have the perfect place where you can put that money. It's with their My Style checking account. No, Gil, you don't have to dress like me. It's a My Style checking account, not my personal style. And the best part of it is you're going to get restaurant deals, mobile phone protection, telehealth access, which in an industry like ours that you're running around all the time, I find that mobile telehealth access spectacular. Identity protection, loan rate discounts, which is huge, especially for you when you're looking at a new car. There offers on travel and events if we ever give you any time off, and more. You're going to want to make My Style your lifestyle at Mountain America Credit Union. Visit macu.com/MyStyle to apply. Insured by NCUA. Membership required based on eligibility. Some benefits require a no-cost registration activation. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply.
Listen, that's what you're a hat guy. I'm a hat guy, and there's nothing that makes you stand out like the right headwear, and that's where Branded Bills has you covered. If you're looking for some gear to make you stand out from a part of the crowd or your brand, like we do here at PHNX, Branded Bills has the best custom headwear. Start your order. Their team is going to help you figure out what works best for you and how to make yourself and your headwear look the best. Whether it's a snack bag, trucker, fitted, beanie, or a t-shirt, Branded Bills has everything covered, and it's the best blend of performance and style. They partner with
you.
Some may say that. I don't know if it's true or not. Jury's still out, but they have partnerships with over 40 universities. It's a local company, so of course they've got Arizona State, ASU, and U of A, of course, but for me, they got Wake Forest hats as well over at Branded Bills. And they partner with the Phoenix Suns. So if you're at the morgue for the season finale or the postseason, go over there and get yourself a Branded Bills Suns hat as well. Head to brandedbills.com and use the code BBPHNX for 15% off your first order. That is BBPHNX. Save some money, 15% off your first order. Back here, group therapy, winding down a little bit, but I guess you got to
say wine.
Oh,
winding
okay. Down. But we've been whining as
pop,
well.
Pop the white and the red. I can use some.
Everything, right?
All right.
But you know what? That'll make you smile. Also, what makes you smile is tonight's Love the Play, brought to you by our friends at Arizona Lottery. Play and gift today. And I feel like the only logical choice is Jalen Green, who got a reaction out of us, out of everybody in the chat, and his 360 layup was a sight to behold.
Do we got that video? Let's roll the video. And that was the last time we had fun this evening, was right there. But it was fun.
That's where we peaked. It was cool
fun
to see that smile on Jalen's face. Like, he talks so much about guys and, like, the pressure that goes with playing against your former team and the strain and the frustration that he's had, especially trying to undo what he did during last postseason. But to see him play with some type of joy is exciting to see. And also just a reminder, we talked about how athletic you have to be to pull off a play like that. It's pretty impressive. So that's cool to kind of energize the fans, and hopefully we see more of the same from him. And also like those small signs that he's feeling more and more like himself, because I don't think he's fully all the way back to feeling like himself just yet.
Gil, I'm gonna tell you after the show. We got the mini hoop out there. I'll teach you how to do that.
Okay, we'll play it ourselves.
I'll show you.
I would love to see that.
Yeah, good to see that. But again, comes in a loss, and that's difficult, and all sorts of questions that still remain for this team. But I know we got a bunch of questions from our super chats if we want to hit those.
We do have a bunch of questions from all 224 of you who are with us right now. So if you haven't already, can we get a like? A like for the super chats because they're good.
Let's get it to at least 75 before the end of the program.
I would love
do that for
That'd be
us,
great.
Right?
That'd be great.
We've suffered through this all night. You can help us.
Please, just a little bit. Do us a favor. Do us a solid.
Do Gil a favor. You don't have to like me. It's fine.
We'll start with a $4.99 super chat from Teddy. Appreciate you, Teddy. Katie played like trash. Ishbia bought the refs. Suns still blow a 21-point lead. LMAO. Well,
I wish Ishbia bought the refs. Where was this the rest of the year? He waited till now to buy the refs?
Hey, refs. It's like, hey, refs, we want you to wait until game 79 of the season to help us out. The first 78 don't matter. Saying game 79, we need that. And also, I'll push back. KD, I said it already. He was 7 of 14 from quarters 2 through 4. He just had a bad first quarter.
Yeah.
So I think that was a pretty solid Kevin Durant game, but the Suns did blow a 21-point lead. So yeah,
that is factual.
That is factual. Something to definitely laugh at.
35-point swing.
A 35-point swing is not great. One from Michael. 1999 super chat from Michael. Very much appreciated.
They don't call it $20. He didn't.
1999. We're not rounding up. 1999 from Michael. Appreciate you, Michael. Gillespie and O'Neal need out of the rotation. They don't rebound, they don't defend, and they don't run the floor. The Suns need to play fast. Rasheer and Dunn need to see their minutes. Wake up, Jordan Ott.
I have questions about the rotations, in particularly some of the decisions over the last 2 weeks or so. Again, I think we talked about it during the watch along. Some of this is a rookie coach trying to rely on veterans and guys that helped him get there. But yeah, that bench unit, I get these two guys in particular were starting and went back to the bench. There's no excuses at this point. You got to figure it out. And Colin Gillespie has regressed in a large way over the last month. Wake up. Either of these two guys need to wake up, and you don't have much time to do it.
I think the context is very important. I'm sure Steven will be proud of me for saying that. But thinking about them going from starters roles to bench roles, and also thinking about how important they have been to this team throughout the season, it's a tough spot for this to happen. Obviously, I know you don't really want them fully out of the rotation, but you have to trust them to kind of find their spots in this second unit because so much is changing for them when they need to do what is being asked of them, also coming off the bench cold and contributing right away, getting a feel for the game flow, sometimes stopping the bleeding, sometimes keep the momentum rolling. A lot of moving pieces for those guys. So it's tough to have to do it in a new role.
I think they need to simplify it. Go out, hit your threes.
Yeah,
I mean, Grayson, Colin, Royce, that's your primary job. When those looks, and they had good looks tonight at times, they just didn't hit them. When you get those looks, you got to cash them. Otherwise, yeah, what are you doing out there? You could have given other guys opportunities tonight when you weren't hitting.
Big time reminder of the game flow. $4.99 super chat from Riddle. Always appreciate super chats from you, Riddle. Anchors, Green, Gillespie, Allen, O'Neal, and Oso, just bad IQ.
Okay, bad IQ, definitely not the case. You can question some of Green's decisions, but Gillespie, Allen, O'Neal, and Oso are not bad IQ guys. Now, the execution tonight, yeah, bad execution guys.
Bad execution.
Like it was a former football coach. I support execution when it comes to that. There was just none of it from these guys this evening. But bad IQ, I don't think that's a fair assessment.
They got outplayed. They got outplayed. I think back to when there was no answer for Alperen Şengün in that fourth quarter. It wasn't bad IQ plays. It was just, hey, we don't have an answer for him. And it wasn't even that he did that much. I think it was like 6 points and 3 or 4 assists in the fourth quarter.
It was the knockout blow.
It was the knockout blow when it was the game just swung completely, and maybe the hook wasn't as fast on certain guys, but it is what it is. You learn from that. You move on, and we might see a different cast of guys tomorrow, as SPG alluded to. $4.99 super chat from Broken Never Beaten. I think that kind of says where we are.
Man,
right.
Are you a lifelong Suns fan? If not, your name suggests that you might have been.
$4.99 super chat from Broken Never Beaten. Love that name. Rockets players +6'7", 180 minutes. Suns +6'7", 48 minutes. Suns 6'5" or under, 156 minutes. Size does matter. You can't change your roster now, but you can change rotations.
We're after midnight, so I can say this. That's not what I've been told.
I'm just going to leave it alone there. I mean, ultimately.
You don't want to touch that.
No, I don't. I do think, though.
It's Suns After Dark! Woo!
But I do think it is what it is, though. Like, kind of, because we were commenting at one point, you were making them play your terms with your smaller lineup, and it worked to begin the game. But it's just one of those things where you can kind of continue to wear away by having an advantage in that respect. I think we saw it tonight. So you got to look at what playoff teams, what potential postseason matchups can do, and can they beat you in a similar manner? That should be the concern right now. Because as you said, can't change the roster at this point. Roster is who they are.
Playoffs.
Oh, well, we'll go. Yeah.
Playoffs.
I'm just going to continue to say postseason and emphasize postseason until you get a win in the play-in tournament, which they are locked in at this point. $4.99 from Teddy. Suns fold under pressure just like last year. Maybe Booker is a problem. Bad leader / teammate. See how unfair that sounds?
Hey, Teddy. Is there not a Rocket show that I appreciate you $4.99, but let's be honest. This team is in the play-in and in the playoff picture. And this time last year, the Suns were eliminated essentially from the play-in. This is vastly, vastly different. And that's the bad leader, bad teammate thing was not coming from this corner of the internet. At least not the two gentlemen sitting here, especially this one who wasn't even
If I said it, nobody was hearing. So
yeah. So yeah, I get the point, but yeah,
I think it's different. $5 super chat from Matthew. Appreciate you, Matthew Gill. Explain how the Rooks can still be pluses, but we still lose. Everyone seems to have a crystal ball. I'm excited for the play in which we did not get last year. Well, first, I like to call that perspective. I appreciate that perspective, Matthew, because we are gearing up for the postseason. It might not necessarily be the best circumstances right now, especially losing games like this, which I think was the closest that you can get to simulating what a playoff game will feel like. They did not pass this test. But I do kind of think that the rookies, you can look short-term right now. Why aren't they available to play? Why aren't they ready? Why aren't they trusted right now? I think that there are two sides to that. Have they shown enough? But also, is Jordan not being as trustworthy as he can be with those guys? But the other part of it too, and I think that you recognize this too with what you're saying, Matthew, is that, listen, these guys are a part of the big picture plan here, and they need to hit for this team to achieve and accomplish what they hope to achieve. And I saw some people saying they need to rebuild or whatever. This is a rebuild. Like,
yes.
you parted ways with two guys who made a lot of money last year, and obviously one is still in the books. But you brought in a new team. There's a new identity for this team. There's a new identity for this franchise, and I think that's what a rebuild looks like. They're just ahead of schedule, so I think that people are looking at this through a different type of lens, and instead of saying, hey, they're ahead of schedule, not you, Matthew, but generally speaking, people are saying, hey, this team needs to figure things out because they're a play-in tournament team, but in reality, they weren't expected to be here at all. And now people are kind of changing the expectations a little too much. The pendulum has swung too far.
Yeah, well, DRW in the chat says, "Oh, cope Espo," with what I said to the previous super chat. And to me, I'm like, it's not coping. That's reality. Last year's team was 36 or 46. They missed the play-in. They didn't even make the play-in. This year's team, who was supposed to be battling the Jazz for the worst in the West, is guaranteed a play-in spot and likely guaranteed a home play-in game. So they're better than last year, and they're better than anybody expected. That's not cope. That's reality.
It's just reality. Look at the standards for as far as that goes. And this is like the perfect note to end on. A little positivity from Michael. $9.99 super chat from Michael. Thank you. Michael, remember when the Timberwolves limped to the 2024 playoffs as the Suns looked like they were picking up steam? Then the Wolves brought the brooms out. Momentum is great to have, but it's not final. And that's fair. Obviously not a great memory thinking about that sweep, but looking at this team who they are 1-1 in the last two games, lost like in 3 of the last 4, but have an opportunity. Mavericks, Lakers, Thunder to close the season. Who knows what the Lakers and Thunder are playing for by the time the weekend comes around. We know what the Mavs are playing for. Ping pong balls and getting Cooper Flag the Rookie of the Year trophy. Yeah. But if you can find a way, momentum not necessarily being measured in wins and losses, but a couple lessons, a couple guys seeing the ball go through, a couple things click with the rotations that you have to where you're feeling good about where you are come Tuesday when the postseason starts. It's not a matter of flipping switches. I don't think this team is talented enough to flip a switch, but to have a couple things to feel good about going into next week, I think that's all you can ask for the final 3 games of the season.
Just go 2-1. Give me a little sign of life with it. And guess what? I still say the Suns won the KD trade, but that's not because the Rockets lost it. I'm saying it because the Suns reset everything that they were doing, did it in a way that they were still good enough this year, but give them the flexibility to get better over the next handful of years. So yeah, the Phoenix Suns won the Kevin Durant trade for their purposes, and it essentially was admitting that they screwed up in the way that they approached team building and that they were going to take a different path. To me, that is winning after the debacle that was the Big Three era. And that's not KD's fault. That's just the reality of how it played out. And Houston can succeed, but that doesn't mean the Suns lost the trade. The Suns still, in my mind, won the trade because they're better than everybody thought they were going to be. They've reset the culture, and they have the flexibility now under these aprons to go add more.
And if I recall correctly, you can't decide who really wins or loses the trade 9 months after it. You got to wait a long time till everything kind of sorts itself out. And I know.
Come on, Malawach has, another 10, 12 years of basketball. He was part of that deal, so that's part of it as well.
Exactly. I know I mentioned we were going to end on a positive note, but one more negative. We do need to look at our pregame picks from over at Bet365.
Read the ad, and we don't have to look.
You know, where winning is everything except if you are you, me, Espo. We all didn't do well. I'm still on the positive for now, but listen, if I go 0-3 over these last 3 games, I finish.
You're still gonna win. That's the problem.
I don't want to win.
You're like the Suns. You're gonna limp into the postseason with a win.
Yeah, but you know what? The Suns go 2-1 to close the season, though. That's a 45-win season, as you said, and that is the positive note that I will choose to end on this. Because had you told me when I was moving out here they win 45 games, I'd be like, "Are you sure?" Had they told you that they win 45 games this year,
I sat here and said 38 wins and said it on Twitter. And I was told that I needed to go live in a padded room. Now, I probably do, but not for that reason.
That's cope, Espo. That's cope. You were coping.
I was like 38 wins, and I think they'll have more than last year. But they're not gonna. They'll be in the play-in race, but they'll fall out of it. I was told I was insane, and I was paid by the team. I was snorting copium and mainlining that crap left and right. And guess what? I was wrong. They're better than that.
They're better than that. Look at that. You're wrong. So maybe you needed to just raise your expectations, and that's what we'll continue to keep doing over here as the season winds down. We'll be right back here tomorrow. Thankfully, the game's an hour earlier, but a big game against the Dallas Mavericks. Suns trying to sew up that 7th seed. As always, we appreciate each and every one of you who tune in to us. Appreciate the Freckle Mamba behind the Mac, making the magic happen. Appreciate Espo. You can follow him at Espo. You can follow Freckle Mamba at Freckle Mamba. You can follow me at Gil McGregor _, and you can follow the show at PHNX _Suns. We'll have a lot more coming for you here on the channel and in preparation for the postseason. I won't say playoffs yet, but the postseason, because the play-in tournament is less than a week away officially because it is past midnight. Until then, we'll catch you next time, and we'll just bounce back and try to stay positive.
Ahoy, ho.
We all silly like the mayor.